Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mind Your Mental. Just a reminder that this podcast is not meant to be a substitute for a relationship with a licensed mental health professional. I know they are hard to find, and I get that. I have a bunch of resources on my website if you need them, but I am not your clinician. I am a psychologist, but I am not your psychologist. So if you need any specific help, please look for the help of a licensed mental health professional. Learn all you can learn from the podcast. Enjoy the episode. All right, everyone. So today we are joined with Minaa B. Minaa is a social worker. She is also an author of Owning Your Struggles, which shares therapeutic tools, client stories, actionable insights, which I'm all about the actionable insights to help you on your healing journey, as well as reflections from her personal experience. She is also a mental health educator and podcast host of the show Mindful with Minaa, which is dedicated to helping individuals live with intention and develop healthy relationships with themselves and others. Basically, Minaa teaches people how to cultivate self-efficacy and build community. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Dr. Martin. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I've been thinking about friendships a lot lately because, as things change over time, relationships can change, and they can change within the aspect of having more support, or you can find that things aren't fitting the way that you wanted them to and things of that nature. And I thought you would be perfect for this conversation because in your book, you discuss the importance of finding our village. So can you share how, through your personal experiences or professional observations, how has that shaped your understanding of the role of friendships in the Black community in particular?
Really good question. I think to use my own personal experiences, I will say it's very much enmeshed with my professional experiences as well. But as an adult Black woman, I have a lot of core friends that I've known since I was a child. And I think that is a big deal to be 34 years old, and my village are the people who pretty much have been with me from childhood and beyond, in early adulthood and beyond. And so I have been able to witness and experience the shifts that take place in friendships and the importance of learning how to grow together with people. And this is a big part of what I feel when it comes to friendships, is that the concept of growing together is generally attached to romantic relationships, and people generally are not given the language or the tools that they need to know how to grow together in friendships. We will hear the importance of two partners learning how to come together, two partners learning how to compromise with one another and be flexible with one another, two partners who have to do the work of having open communication, engaging in honesty. And if there is a rupture in that relationship, you go to couples therapy, you do all of the supportive work to try to heal the rupture. But then when it comes to friendships, it's generally in a societal level, it's like, well, if you're not getting along anymore, I guess the friendship's over, and I want to bring forth new language to what it looks like to actually grow together with your community. And in my book, I talk about how friendship falls on a spectrum and recognizing that there are going to be people in your life who their role is simply to be an acquaintance. It is not for them to evolve into being your BFF. Their role simply is to just be this person in a particular season of your life. But then there is also going to be that person who does evolve into a close friend. And so how do we learn to exist on that spectrum so that we can allow people to be what they can be to us, and also use discernment to say, well, maybe this friendship was seasonal. Maybe this friendship was for a particular reason. And we have evolved from one another. We've outgrown one another. There doesn't have to be animosity or tension. We can honor that we had maybe 5 beautiful years, 10 beautiful years, even 20 beautiful years, but it's over now, and it was important and it was something that was valuable, and it can still hold place into your life until it's time for you to move on. And so I really just want people to be able to broaden how they see friendships, but also most importantly, what does it look like to fight for your friendship? What does it look like to evolve in friendships? And what does it look like to grow the same way we use that language in romantic relationships as well?
Hey, everyone, just a reminder that Mind Your Mental is not just a podcast. It is also a amazing community, if I do say so myself. It's phenomenal. I mean, you get more access to me. What more could you want in this life? So If you want to join the community, if you're not already on the community, go to my social media. My social media is the same, Raquel Martin, PhD, and DM me the word community so you can get details on joining this amazing flipping community. You get more access to me, y'all. Like, I'm a delight. All right. All right. Hope to see you there. If you had like a patient or you doing consultant or even just the aspect of educating people, it's tough because you do so many things. So like in in that realm, I was like, and if you do it this way, and if you do it this way, and if you like so in all of these realms, what are some signs that you would see, like if the person was sitting across from you and be like, it sounds to me like you're trying to put someone that's an acquaintance into the BFF, or it sounds like you're struggling with, it seems like this friendship has evolved into a space where you guys aren't as present with each other. Like you used to BFFs, but now it seems like you guys have transitioned to or evolved to like the aspect of acquaintanceships, and that's okay. How would you be able to, like, they were talking to you and you'd be like, I think I see what the issue is.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think the first thing that generally comes up is there is a shift in expectations. And so some people will say, I have this person that I met, this person in my life who I really like, and I find that they're not showing up for me in the way that I want them to. And so I'll start asking questions. Well, how are they showing up? How frequently are they showing up? Have you communicated and expressed your needs to this person? Is there reciprocity in this relationship? Are you always giving and giving, or do you find that there is a balance here where you're receiving something, but maybe you're not receiving as much as you would like to receive from this person? Have you made bids for connections? Are you waiting for that person to just hit you up and text you and plan a date? Or are you communicating and making it aware to this person that you have particular needs that you would like for them to meet? And I find that when a client is able to say, I've done these particular things and this is how this person responds, my next question will be is, well, what would it look like for you to honor the capacity that they have and what they're able to give you? Because I don't hear someone who is being silent. I don't hear someone who is being absent from your life, but I do hear that maybe you're not having the frequent hangouts that you'd like. You're not having the frequent phone calls that you would like. So it seems to me as if they're showing up in one way, but your needs are letting you know that you still feel empty and you're not feeling fulfilled by that particular relationship. So is it possible that maybe this friendship is more of an acquaintanceship? And you have expectations of this person that they're actually trying to convey to you, they can't meet those expectations for you. So, is it possible for you to move forward in this relationship? Can you give them an opportunity to show up how they can be? Or is it a sign to you now that maybe you need to continue to do the work and increase your circle of participation, which basically means what are the communities and the networks that you can involve yourself in so that you can meet an abundance of people and find people who can fulfill certain needs? So, when it comes to identifying who is an acquaintance and who is a close friend, I think those are the core things that I would encourage someone to reflect on and think about. What am I receiving in this relationship and what is actually missing? Now, if I'm not receiving anything at all, then I would question if that's even a friendship. Right. I think sometimes one of the things that I hear people talk about is they are very quick to label people as friends, and I'll ask a lot of questions, such as, how long have you known this person? What are some things you have in common? How does this person make you feel? What do you enjoy about being around this person? What are some of the things you all talk about? And then I'll hear their messages and I'll hear their statements and I'll say, so is this a friendship or is this just someone that you know? Right? Because what I'm hearing you say is this is your colleague. And when you go to work, you really enjoy talking to them. This is the person that you maybe have lunch with. But outside of that, there really is no connection. The relationship is not flourishing outside of the workplace. And so maybe they're simply just your colleague, but you're looking for deeper friendship and your colleague isn't willing to give it to you or they're not ready to give it to you. So what would it look like for you to take a step back and honor the place that this friendship is in, which is more of a colleague peer relationship versus this is a friendship. Because I think the word friend is used very loosely in our culture. And even though we have terms like colleagues, acquaintance, we just go straight to friendship. And when you go straight to friendship, there are expectations attached to that word. The expectations is reciprocity. The expectations is my emotional needs being met. The expectations is me being able to rely on you in certain situations. And I think when we take a step back and broaden that term to recognize, no, friendship falls on a spectrum, you're now able to identify, okay, there are certain people in my life who they provide me with respect, they provide me with care, but they're not necessarily a close friend. They're just an acquaintance or they're just a colleague.
Yeah.
But I do want to answer the other question that you had as well, where I do find that there are times where people are in very close relationships and life happens. And I think that this is common. You know, I used to work predominantly with women and Black women, especially. And so these are women who have had friendships like the way I just shared for a very long time. So when you've known someone, you know them in one particular way. And now they're growing and they're evolving, and there are life transitions that are taking place that you now have to bear witness to. They may be getting married. They may be expecting their first child. They may be experiencing a great loss. They may have gotten promoted, and now that promotion requires a lot of their time. They may have quit their job and now they're an entrepreneur and they're having this different level of success that they didn't realize would take up so much of their time as well. There's a huge shift that hits when we enter adulthood. And I think sometimes it can be very hard to recognize that there is a shift taking place in this friendship, and your friend is not going to have the capacity to meet your needs the way that they used to. Now they have a kid. They can't sit up all night talking to you on the phone. Now they entered into a relationship, and so they have someone else that they have to prioritize. Now they have this job that's demanding so much of them. They're so tired, girl. I'm sorry. I don't want to talk on the phone when my work shift is over.
Yep.
Little things like that, right? And that causes a shift too, where it helps us understand that there's love and there's care in this relationship. But growing with people requires us to recognize when we need to be flexible and when we need to compromise in those relationships. And what does it look like to adjust our expectations to meet the needs of our friends so that friendship can still grow? But also, it is okay to grieve the shift in your relationship as well. What's hard is hard, and you can give yourself permission to feel what is hard.
And I think part of that is also being honest about the fact that there is a shift, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
recently went through a scenario where someone who I've been close with, I would say they're the friend I've had the longest. There were just very many shifts within the way we were communicating with each other and the way roles had changed, right? And you have to be honest about, yeah, stuff is shifting. They went through very big shifts in their life, and I'm in a part where in my career where I'm just like, this is a career year. Like I told everyone this is a career year. Okay. So like the outings and stuff like that, like I think that's amazing, but this is very much a year where I'm really trying to dedicate to a certain level of growth so that we can move forward. And you mentioned the aspect of reciprocity and friendships, and they have to be give and take. I say when it comes to being a professor, when it comes to so many roles, I always say it's easy to be bad at stuff. It is like it's easy to be a bad friend, in my opinion. It's easy like to forget to call, to check in, to ask questions after you're being asked. It's easy to forget likes and dislikes. It's harder to maintain, like the same way I'm checking in with what is my food, does my child like apples this week? Oh, when's the last time I checked in with my friend to see how that interview for that promotion went? It's harder to remember, like, okay, I went to brunch. When's the last time I saw so and so to ask them if they wanted to hang out? Or when's the last time I asked if they just wanted to watch TV and let the TV watch us and we just drink some juice and just kick it? Like when's the last? But it's easy to forget things like that, just like you mentioned, because it is reciprocity. Therapy is the only, and this is the salience in therapy, in my opinion. There's so many amazing things, but the relationship is not reciprocal. You can ask me how I'm doing. That's what's up. You don't have to, though. Like, my whole job is to collaborate with you and help you meet what you want to. Therapy is the only relationship that, if it's healthy, it's not reciprocal. Friendships, romantic relationships, these are reciprocal. Like, it has to be give and take. Because honestly, the lack of reciprocity is typically a sign for me with a patient that I'm like, this isn't healthy. It's not healthy for you to only be giving, and it's not healthy for you to only be taking. And I think it's hard for people to acknowledge that shift because, of course, I don't think individuals talk enough about you can grieve decisions that are good for you too.
Mm-hmm.
You can
Exactly.
grieve being like, okay, my expectations for you on the friend scale are bigger than what my expectations would be for you on the acquaintance scale. And I think that's going to be better for a relationship. That also sucks. And I'm also upset about that. Like, I can acknowledge that, yeah, this is a better fit for where you are. And it doesn't mean it's going to be permanent. And I also think that's sad because who talks about that in life? About, yes, we talk about marriage and kids, but then you get to your wedding and like, hey, you know what? When I used to play MASH and I had all my bridesmaids, 3 of the people who I thought were going to be my bridesmaids aren't even here. Man, I'm doing my baby shower invite list, and the person who I thought would be sitting right here planning with me, I haven't talked to in years. And you're grieving a different aspect, and it's okay to acknowledge that and mention that they evolve. It doesn't mean that they have to end. They could just evolve into something different, and if anything, that's healthier. But I don't think that gets talked about enough because it's tough.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And I always like to focus on it was good until it wasn't good anymore, or it worked until it couldn't work anymore.
Yeah.
Versus the perception of this person isn't here because of all of these terrible things, but it was good until it wasn't good anymore. And how can we honor the space to just grieve that this friendship that we thought was probably going to last a lifetime, it didn't hit that goal. But that doesn't take away from the things that I gained from that relationship. Or there are going to be times where you do recognize that from the very beginning it was a toxic relationship. And I think that is something people
That's
grieve
okay
too.
too.
That is okay too.
You got to be in a healthy space to recognize what was
to
toxic.
recognize that. Exactly.
That's progress.
Exactly. And I talk about how that is something that a lot of people mourn as well, because you take a step back and you have this greater awareness now where you're like, wow, so this relationship really was just founded on trauma and dysfunction and codependency. And I gave 10 years of myself to that. And that can leave somebody in a place of sadness too, and grieving too, because you start to think about all the things you lost, or all the opportunities that maybe you didn't gain because you were tied to this particular person, the same way we will also apply that to romantic relationships. And so I think grieving is just a huge part of shifts in relational dynamics, regardless of what they are, regardless of what causes the shift. But I definitely think that it's one of those things that isn't talked about enough, and it's not normalized enough. And I do want to do the work of having conversations like this. I'm happy that we're able to talk about it, because I do think that friendships are very beautiful connections that serve a tremendous purpose to our well-being and our mental health. And we're meant to have connections and be a part of community. But I do think that when you are a part of these systems, a big part of that is giving space to allowing certain friendships to be seasonal, but then also allowing certain friendships to let it run its course. And if it's going to last a lifetime, that is beautiful. But there are also going to be moments where it doesn't. And even the ones that do last what might feel like a lifetime, there are still going to be shifts involved in that.
Oh, yeah.
You have to put in work for it to be able to last a lifetime. And I think that's one of the things that I want people to be able to hold on to, where it's like, if you want those long-term relationships that are going to flourish over time, again, as we're talking about, is it a reciprocal relationship? Is it a relationship where you are communicating and talking about your needs, or talking about the shifts, or just saying, you know what, I want to check in here. Am I being a good friend to you? I want to check in here and say, girl, you know what? I am so sorry. I completely forgot that you got a promotion and all of these new things are happening for you. And I have just been lost in my own stuff. I can hold myself accountable enough to be that friend to just come forth and say that. right? And I think when we can hold ourselves accountable, when we can be reflective, when we can be self-aware, when we can move ego out the way, right? And just come to the relationship in our fullness, in our full selves and say, I'm not perfect. So can you make space for me to be imperfect in this relationship and call me out when you need to?
Yeah.
Right? Can we do that in this friendship so that we can grow together? And when we get to a place where we feel like I've called you out enough and I just don't think this is going to work moving forward, then we also have to honor when endings arise as well.
Yeah, I say all the time, my black love looks like accountability, because I also
Mm-hmm.
like I don't need friends that's just gonna like big me up during the peaks of life. I need you to tell me when my breath stink too. Like I don't need you to only let me know like, oh girl, you look amazing. I need you to tell me it's also a deodorant stain on that shirt. You know, like I need both. Like you need to
Yes. Yes.
listen. Y'all need to get you friends who'll tell you when your breath stink. Okay, you need to let me know. Okay, because it tastes
Yes.
fine to me. You know, like so I did not know. Like I need somebody like that. I mean, like don't be don't be getting me played out here. Like you mean to tell me I've been over here humming and hawing and all these people facing my breath and smell. Like why ain't y'all none of y'all tell me? I feel betrayed. Like, oh my God.
You know what's interesting about that too, though, that I have had to work through with clients a lot about is, are you open to hearing the truth?
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of self-awareness and reflection on your part to be able to withstand the friend coming to you to say, girl, I'm sorry, but your breath is kicking
Like
right
you
now.
must have had salmon and garlic and onions for lunch, girl. Like
Right,
what?
right.
It sounds like it smells like it was
Exactly.
delicious. Okay. But like I shouldn't be able to tell.
Yes. Yes, like I'm saying this out of love. I want you to go on
Yes.
stage. I want you to do the things that you do, but you got a stain right here on your
Mm.
shirt and your teeth. All this is happening. And can you, though, as the friend on the receiving end, be reflective enough to take it in, not listen to maybe the stories that you're telling yourself, but also be able to use discernment.
Yeah.
Who is this person to me? How long have they known me? Do they care about me? What is the evidence to show who they are in my life? Because I think another thing that I see happening that I've had to counsel women through is I will hear them saying they want honest conversation, but then when they get it, it's like my friend is being a hater.
Yo, and it's
My
like,
friend must
are
be
they?
jealous of me.
Were they a hater before?
Are they? Right. Can we pause here and take a moment to really step back and hear what's being said? Let's dissect this friendship really quickly.
Yeah.
So this friend has shown up for you how many ways? They've supported you how many ways? They've done all of these things for you, but they're telling you something you don't like, something that you're not ready to hear. And now all of a sudden they've become your biggest enemy?
That's excessive.
Now all of a sudden they're jealous of you?
Like, how do we get
now
here?
All of a sudden they're the biggest hater in your life? How about we just take a step back from that and listen to some of the distorted thinking taking place? Because maybe, another thing that can come up is, one, we have all of these self-deprecating narratives about ourselves in certain situations. And so the moment we hear any form of critique or negative feedback, we project the negative ideologies we're holding about ourselves. And so if I'm feeling doubt, the moment my friend comes to me to tell me the truth, oh no, she's a hater. She's a hater. But really, what I'm trying to say is I don't feel confident in what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And it made me feel really terrible to even hear my friend say, girl, I'm not even confident in what you're doing.
That's what you need.
But I ain't want her to tell me that. But exactly, that is what you needed. And there's a difference between you not being ready to hear the truth and your friend being a difficult person or a hater by telling you the truth. And I think those are the things that gets friendships really distorted, because sometimes people are not doing the internal work to be able to be reflective enough to say, what is actually happening here, and using discernment.
Yeah.
Because if I just met you last week and you want to step into my life and tell me, Minaa, these are my opinions about you, I'm going to be honest. I'm gonna take it with a grain of salt because I'm gonna be like, sis, who are you?
Yeah.
Who?
That's the
Why
thing.
do you
It's
even
the
think you
level
have
of
permission?
relationship. It's the level of relationship. Because a lot of
Exactly.
times, and that's what honestly helps me on social media, because when people say crazy stuff, it's just, I'm just like, diatribe 725. Who the frick is this? I don't know you.
Who are you?
I don't know you.
Who asked for your
I did
opinion?
not. You comment on my page, honey. I'm not commenting on yours. I don't even know who you are. Versus if it was my friend, one of my friends, I would be like, oh, I need to check that because they know
Exactly.
me, and
They
would be
know
like, girl,
you.
that was super inappropriate. Like, nah,
Exactly.
no, it's gonna be a
They
no,
know
girl.
you. That's when I'm like, all right, you know what? She's right. My friend is right.
Mhm.
But sister, I just met last week. Mind your business.
Right? Like, you don't know me.
You don't know me, so go mind your business.
Honey, half the people think that my normal
Right.
face is me being mad, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I just scheduled like 4 doctor's appointments in my head, figured out what the meal prep is going to be, and figured out when I'm going to get to the gym. I'm not even here. Okay? I am not I'm physically here, but I'm running a whole household, honey. I'm not physically, what? No. And I think, a lot of people ask that whole like, of friends, do you want support or solutions? But I was recently talking to a patient and I was like, I think there should be a third option. I think there should be a silence option. I don't think it should just be support or solutions. I think it should be, do you need support or solutions, or do you need silence? And you need to be within yourself to know that. And silence doesn't mean like I can't say anything, but sometimes you really do just need people to sit there with you. Like sometimes you really do need that aspect. And when it comes to support, I think sometimes it gets in the way and people will be like, well, I want to support you. And I don't agree with that. And sometimes people's support is really only, I just need you to agree. And it's just like, oh no, that's silence.
Exactly.
You want silence. You want silence. And if that's what you want, lay it on me. But if you want support, is give and take, right? Like some just be like, I totally understand where you came from with that. I can also understand their perception and they're just from hearing it. And I'm not sure if you have done that. So like the same way my Black love is accountability, that accountability is like, okay, so I heard you and I think that's amazing. I think you didn't hear a part of what they said though. Have you considered that? Yeah. Or if you just acknowledge that you want silence, and it's okay to say you want silence. There are sometimes when I literally be like, yo, I acted a plumb fool with my husband, but all I need you to do is say, how dare he not agree with everything you say and buy you a new house just because you asked for it on a Tuesday. That's what I need. I need the silence. All right. I don't need you to be reasonable about he's a good man. I don't care. As a friend, you need to act like this is somebody we just met off the street, not somebody I've been with for 14 years. I don't need that. And y'all need to be okay. Like this ain't how it's going to be all the time, but like I'm in a mood. I will literally say I'm in a mood of being unreasonable.
Yeah. And I appreciate that honesty in a friendship. And I'll add to that too, when it's like asking that person what they need. I also say it's important to communicate what you can give.
Yes.
Because there are also times in a friendship where you will hear that friend complain about the same thing over and over and over again. And I always have to remind people to not take that personally, because I think what ends up happening is you put yourself in a predicament where you feel like you have to rescue or save. Yeah. And so because they keep coming to you with all of this stuff, you start to get upset because they're not listening to you. And you have to remember your friend is an adult. Your friend can make whatever choices that they can make, but it is also okay to be honest about where you are and what your capacity is and your energetic bandwidth to say, it's okay to come to me and share this story with me, but I'm going to be honest with you right now. All I can do is listen.
Yeah.
Right now, I may not have the capacity to give you feedback or advice. And so I also tell people to put yourself in that predicament too, where it's like, it's important to ask, because I think that asking piece generally gets placed on a pedestal of like, ask your friend what they need and ask your friend what kind of support that they want from you and ask them if they want feedback right now. But I also want people to put emphasis on being honest about what they can give. And there are just going to be times where you want to talk to me and all I can do is actually listen. right? And that's really all I can give you in the moment, because maybe it's my stuff going on, that I have so many things happening that I don't want to neglect you, but I want to hear what's going on for you.
Yeah.
But I just know that I don't have the ability right now to formulate an opinion. I don't have the ability right now to dissect what's happening for you. I may not have the ability to really sit in the thickness of it and decipher what you can do or provide you with certain skills and supportive tools. But right now, maybe all I can do is listen. And are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Are you okay with knowing that right now all I can do is be an active listener to you? So I think that those are some things that I really encourage people to utilize in their friendships as well, because I think it's a game changer. And I think that is something that allows us to grow together when we can respect the needs and the capacities of our friends as well, because we're always shifting and transforming.
Yeah. And
It doesn't have to be a big life change. There could be minor things happening in someone's life that you don't realize it's leaving a really big impact on them. So don't also assume that my friend is okay because there's nothing major happening. They didn't have a baby, they didn't get married, they didn't get a job promotion, but they might be actually going through something that to them, the way it's impacting them emotionally, it is a huge deal. And so, how can you show up for them without labeling and deciding and pulling out your measuring stick how much compassion they deserve? Because in your world, it's not that big of a deal, but in their world, it is.
because it's all relative. And I think when I was at Hopkins, the majority of my training is in trauma. And of course, that's like an incredibly difficult space. And one thing that we used to say to each other when we were going to discuss cases, when it wasn't like in case, and when it wasn't in rounds, we would be like, is it okay if I slime all over you? And the sliming all over you meant like, I got something heavy. And like, are you in a place to be receptive to the heavy, right? Because our cases were incredibly intense. And if you're going after, if we've had back-to-back sessions of, dealing with trauma narratives, and then someone needs a minute to consult with you on their case, but it's like this is a slime case. This isn't like, I just need a resource. This is, how do I deal with like this heavy stuff? And we would ask that beforehand. And if people weren't receptive to it, it's understood that like, okay, I'll just check with someone else. But you were also giving that level of disclaimer, right? Because I think you need to also acknowledge like it hurts to see your friend hurt, right? I did this skit about what not to say to people when they're in a negative thought spiral, when they're just like, oh, I think you're overthinking it. And the other person is just like, yeah, I'm overthinking it. You think I don't know? I'm overthinking it. I'm the one doing it. I'm aware that it's happening. But I say that in addition to providing options about like what can be helpful, you also need to realize, are you in a place where you can be present for that negative thought spark? Because the thing that happens is maybe you're watching them say these bad things themselves and you're trying to help and they're not receptive to it. And it overwhelms you to be present for that. Like, okay, so this is also bringing up, like, are they overthinking or am I not thinking enough? And, like you also need to realize that, like, are you in a space to be present? And it's okay to state like, hey, I am so sorry. I have to be honest, when you go through these things and I don't know how to help, or I provide these solutions and they're still not helpful, I actually get overwhelmed. And that causes me to say stupid stuff like, you may be overthinking it. Cause like, they know they overthinking. Yeah. They do this for a living. They know it. Like, it's not new to them. Right. But you have to be wherewithal to be like, oh my goodness, like I'm getting overwhelmed and I can't be helpful. You have to feel what's going on in your body and being like, now you're trying to jut in because you can't. And sometimes there is no solution, right? Like sometimes you do have to just sit with it. Sometimes it is just like, this is a sucky feeling and I don't want to reside here and I'm not going to stay here forever, but this is where I'm at now. So I'm grieving right now, or I don't want to be angry right now. However, I can't acknowledge that anger is very real in this moment and I'm going to be angry for this moment. Sometimes it's hard to watch that. And that's sometimes why individuals provide, some people provide invalidating statements because it's just like, I want to help. All I know how to do is help. You have to acknowledge that you possibly may not be able to.
Exactly.
Like, that's okay. Yeah. And it's less helpful to say something like that, right? Like, you also have to realize like what comes out for you when your friends are going through these difficult times, when they're overthinking, when they're dealing with grief. When I was younger, I sucked at managing grief with people. So I was just bad at it. Like, I would just be like, because there is no solution. Like, I used to be very much solution oriented and there is no solution. I want to make you feel better and you're upset. And then I would just come out with like, I didn't know what to do. because there is no solution.
Yeah,
And I think that's what a lot of
there
people
is
struggle
none.
with. They're just like, well, how do I help? What if I told you you couldn't? I just have to go through this. I just have to be
Exactly.
sad or angry or frustrated. This is just where I'm at. And you mean I have to watch you? I can't fix it? Nah,
Mm-hmm.
you can't fix it. Like, I appreciate you wanting to, but no, I'm gonna be sad for a minute. Same thing with apologies. You can apologize to someone of harm that was caused, and you have to accept that, like, that relationship may change forever and they may not accept it. And even though you've done the healing and you realize that you need to, you have remorse, they may be like, I appreciate that. I don't want to continue on with this relationship.
Yes, that is a big one I see all the time. But I apologized. I
Mm-hmm.
said I was sorry.
Yep.
I tried to make up for it. And it's like you don't get to dictate somebody's healing journey. You made the decision, regardless of what your intention was, your choices made an impact on someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And so they get to choose how they want to move forward in this relationship with you. And you don't get to dictate what steps they're supposed to take to repair the relationship when you're the one who caused the harm in the first place. And I think that's a big thing that happens in friendship rifts as well, where people will say, well, I see they have adjusted the degree of closeness. And so, how can you honor the fact that you're not as close as you used to be? I don't hear them terminating the friendship, but I do hear that maybe it's going to take some time for them to build trust. It's going to take some time for them to feel safe enough to be vulnerable around you. It's going to take some time for them to manage the discomfort
Yeah.
and manage what's coming up for them. But forgiveness doesn't mean that they have to reconcile immediately. It also doesn't mean that they have to give you what you want, because now you're entering a zone of entitlement by saying, as long as I say sorry, this is what I expect. And that's not how things work. So now you have to check yourself to say, am I being entitled here?
Mm-hmm.
Do I think because I said I'm sorry, that gives me an opportunity to just get back into something without having to deal with the repercussions of it? And so those are the things too that I think in friendships, there's a lot of ego work that you have to tend to. You have to listen to those cognitive distortions, which are those negative stories that we tell ourselves when we're jumping to conclusions and we're making assumptions because we're not actively communicating.
Yeah.
These are the things that people have to bring into their friendships. And so I just really encourage people to be doing that internal work. And also, if you are in therapy, I know we're not in a place yet in our culture where we are promoting friendship therapy, but it's also okay to go to your therapist and talk about your friendship.
Yeah.
It is also okay to use that therapeutic space to say, you know what? My friend really pissed me off and I got to talk to somebody about it. It is not gossiping.
Yeah.
It is not tearing them down. You need to have healthy spaces to be able to vent about your friends. Your friends are imperfect people. They're going to make mistakes. And you need to use discernment and wisdom to identify who are the safe people that I can go with this information, that I know that they're going to be a safe container to help me process what I'm going through with this individual. If you know you're going to go to person A and they'll be like, ooh, girl, I told you she was messy and this,
Yep.
that, and you don't need to be her friend, I would say that's probably not the person that you should go to, because they're not offering you insight into your own behavior. They probably have their own agenda because maybe they feel a particular way about this person. So now you're setting them off because they're like, oh, I was waiting for something to happen so that I could complain about this person because I don't want you to be her friend.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so also, is this person digging for more information? Now you feel like you're gossiping and you're talking about things that aren't even relevant to the issue at hand. And I think because we have failed for some people to find those healthy supportive networks, sometimes people keep things bottled in that's frustrating them about their friends because they don't know where to turn to vent about their friends. I believe in venting about your friends. The same way we will vent about our partners, it is okay to vent about your friend, but you need to be venting to the right person. Vent to someone who can check you if it's necessary,
Yeah.
vent to someone who provides a psychological safe space for you to process, vent to someone who listens, but also use discernment to recognize, if I vent in this room, is it going to be a healthy container? I don't have to worry about next week when we're at brunch, everybody heard the story,
Yeah.
right? Because that's a problem.
Mhm.
That's not a safe container.
It's not.
So I encourage people to also just be thinking about, because if you don't have a therapist, who can you turn to in your life that you can say, this person is trustworthy, safe, and I can use discernment and recognize, I know I can share this particular issue with this person because they're going to give me the feedback that I need and they're going to help me manage this situation. And I think when we also have those tools, we will also be able to see ourselves seeing a shift in our relationships and our friendships.
That is amazing. So, Minaa B, thank you so much for coming on the show. Let everybody know where they can find you. One, you already have your podcast, Mindful with Minaa. You also have your book, Owning, is it Your Struggles as well?
Owning Our Struggles.
Owning Our Struggles, because it's community focused. Good job. I get that. I see what you did there. All right. Tell everybody else where they can find you.
Well, you all can find me on social media. My social media handle is Minaa_B on Instagram, but you can just type in Minaa B on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram, as well as Threads. And as Dr. Martin shared, I have a podcast, Mindful with Minaa. And then you can also subscribe to my Substack, Mindful with Minaa, as well, where I share a weekly newsletter. So thank you so much, Dr. Martin, for having me.
Of course. Thank you.